say Happy New Year.
Good evening, everyone. It is Monday, January 14th, 2019. I would like to call to order the Wilmette Park District 2019 Budget and Appropriations Public Hearing. This is a combined annual budget and appropriation of funds for the Wilmette Park District, Cook County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2019 and ending on the 31st day of December 2019. Notice of this public hearing was published December 27th, 2018 in the Wilmette Beacon, and the combined annual budget and appropriation of the fund ordinance has been on display and available for public inspection at the administration offices of the Wilmette Park District, 1200 Wilmette Avenue, Wilmette, between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday since December 7th, 2018. All persons desiring to be heard will now have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect to the 2019 proposed budget and appropriations. First, are there any written or oral comments from the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Are there any written or oral comments from the public? Okay, hearing none. Hearing no further comments or questions regarding the combined annual budget and appropriations of funds for the Wilmette Park District, I declare the public hearing closed. We will now move to our regular meeting of the Park Board of Commissioners. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Abbott.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson is absent. Commissioner Foster.
Here.
Commissioner Pelleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley.
Here.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes, here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. First on our agenda this evening is approval of minutes. We had quite a few meetings in November and December discussing some committee of the whole meetings discussing budgets and some other truth and taxation. So may we have a motion, please?
Is that me?
Yeah.
You're for.
I don't know. Sorry. I move to approve the minutes for the November 14, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting. Second.
Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes from November 14th, 2018? Hearing none, may we have may we have a roll call vote, please?
Do you need a hard copy?
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Pelleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Olvani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
All right. Next up is November 19th. May I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes of the November 19th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting.
I'll second that.
Are there any comments or corrections to the November 19th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes?
I had one type issue, and then one overall issue that I just wanted to bring up with the board overall. On page 3 of 5, the third full paragraph, the wording issue specifically, it says he went on to day as opposed to he went on to say that there are always ways to make benefits to the environment by incorporating green infrastructure. So change the word day to the word say.
Mine says say, so it's probably already been changed.
Oh, really?
The electronic copy does say day.
Oh, I'm only going by the electronic one. Okay, that's good. And then the other one in the context of this paragraph, when I asked about if there were any similar facilities, I thought that they said that there are two because we talked about it later, but we only talk about one in here, being the one in Northbrook, but there's also one in Glenview, which I don't think is mentioned anywhere else. So somehow, I think it's important for the public to know that there's more than one of these that's already been executed. So I guess I'm asking the board, do we want to incorporate it in this paragraph that there's one in Northbrook and one in Glenview, or do we not think that that's all that relevant? And I don't have a strong opinion either way.
I'm trying to remember what part of the presentation that took place. Was it during your questions?
Yeah.
I feel like it was not during when you were speaking. It might have been.
No, it was. It was a question.
It was in response
Yeah,
to
because
a
it's in
question
here.
John
It's in here. He says, I said, are there any similar facilities? And then it says that Mr. blah blah blah, Mr. Olson introduced so and so, and he said he worked on a similar project.
I think he said though at that time that there were two.
That's what I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
he did, and he
so
went more in depth on Northbrook because he actually personally worked on
Right.
that one. But I can, add the Glenview one over here.
Yeah, I would like to add the fact that there's the Glenview one too, because I think it just, I think it's relevant to this discussion, and B, he talked about it. So if you don't mind
No, that's
adding that.
totally fine. I don't know if there's a way to go back and listen to the minutes to see.
Absolutely. This is recorded and archived on website, so
Perfect.
we can definitely watch it again. But I would just extend that sentence, Commissioner O'Vani, that about a similar project at Westcott Park, and his company also worked on a similar project at, and put the location of the Glenview one.
But we don't know if he did the Glenview one also.
He didn't personally, but his company did.
That's fine. That would probably work.
Okay.
And then I remember speaking, I just don't know when, so I don't know where it would go in here, but I remember addressing a resident's comment early on about the board wanting to derail the project, or kind of accusing us of that, or also stalling on the project, and you see me saying that?
Oh, no. It
So
was-
No,
I
it's under
remember
recognition of-
addressing that
yeah, it's under recognition of
in
visitors.
some form and defending us. And for people who do go in and read these minutes, I know they can watch it too, but those are the type of people that I would like to see that was addressed. And I can't remember everything I said, but
Again, I'm sure the minutes can, or the video or audio recording can show or hear what was said. So.
Yes, I can add that as well.
thanks.
I did address his comments.
You did too, yeah.
Yeah, saying that
Okay. Any other comments or corrections?
I asked the village how long the tanks are likely to last. What's their life expectancy? And the answer was 100 years. And I did ask about whether or not we would consider. I just asked whether or not we would consider a lease, and then that's the way we left it. 100-year lease. So that was a question. I'd like to see the question in there.
Under,
I couldn't hear you, Brian. Can you just?
I'm
so,
sorry.
was that
So,
under page 3 when you were asking about storage solutions?
Yes. I don't see it here, but I did ask the village how long they expected the tanks' lengths. What is their lifetime expectancy? And the answer was 100 years. So I was just saying, and I openly ruminated about the possibility of a 100-year lease in lieu of perpetual. Struggling with my words here, but, would we consider a lease? And then that is where I left it.
Okay.
Okay.
I remember the 100-year comment. I'll have to go back and look at things to find where to place that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments or corrections? So may we, so we have a motion, we have a second, so this will be modified. Do we bring them back again for, since it sounds like there'll be some significant changes before we approve them? So we'll table that vote.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the minutes of December 5th, 2018.
So I'll move to approve the minutes for the December 5th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Second.
Are there any comments or corrections to the December 5th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting? Hearing none, may we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Vani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. And last up, December 10th, 2018.
I'm going to move to approve the minutes for the December 10th, 2018 Truth and Taxation hearing and regular meeting.
Second.
Are there any comments or corrections to the December 10th, 2018 Truth and Taxation hearing meeting minutes? Hearing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Vani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is communications and correspondence. I don't believe there were any in the packet. Do any commissioners have any communications and correspondence they'd like to share? Okay. Hearing none, we will move forward, and we are on to recognition of visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address us this evening? Okay, no one's here to address us, so we'll move forward with the approval of the voucher list.
Mr. Abbott?
Oh,
Going once.
yes. I'm sorry. I got to get there. I'd like to move to approve the voucher list in the amount of $2,760,184.76, a copy of which is to be attached to and become a permanent part of the meeting, of the minutes of this meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Are there any comments or corrections to the voucher list? I had one question. It's on the first, let's see, what page is this? It's the first page of the voucher list.
20? 21?
It's page 21, sorry, page 21. It's Tyler Technologies in-code implementation cost. It's $8,000. I was wondering what that might.
Sure. That is, we are implementing a new time and attendance system to capture people's hours at our various facilities, and even when they're not within our facilities, remotely, more electronically, to become more efficient. Right now, we run a very manual payroll process.
Okay.
This will tighten up the processes, both from a controls point of view as well as an efficiency standpoint.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I had that same question.
Oh, good. Any other questions or comments? All right, may we have a roll call vote on the voucher list, please?
Commissioner Abt?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ovani?
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley?
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf?
Yes.
The voucher list is approved.
Thank you very much. Next up is the Executive Director's Report.
So it's January. Let's talk summer camp. We have coming up registration for summer camp February 5th for residents at 9 a.m. and then the following week for non-residents. In advance of that, on January 29th at the Community Recreation Center from 6 to 7:30 in the evening, we have our annual open house where parents and children can come and learn about the different camp offerings throughout the district, talk to individuals overseeing those camps, and learn what works best for them. In addition to that, we started last year and we're making a more robust version of this year. It's also a camp staff summer staff hiring fair. We will have iPads on scene where individuals can come in, learn about the different summer jobs, and actually fill out applications right there on the spot with us. So always trying to find good people to work with all of our children and keep us safe all summer long, and we're taking advantage of that night to do so. Looking forward at the rest of your agenda, I just want to point out you do have the Budget and Appropriations Ordinance under the new business, and we do have on your agenda a closed session language to adjourn to a closed session. There is no update from staff on any topics, and it's there as a placeholder in the event that the board feels they wish to discuss any topics that fall within these exemptions. But as I said, I do not have any updates specific to any of that to the board. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Thank you. We will move along to committee reports. First up tonight is the Lakefront Committee.
Lakefront Committee met on Monday, January 7th at Malincrot. We had a fairly brief meeting. We discussed an email that I think all of us received from Ann Cup regarding access to the beach, not necessarily the Park District property, but along private property north of the sailing beach. There was a fence that was obstructing the ability to walk along the beach because the beach erosion had eroded so much. While the Park District has no jurisdiction over the area, we did discuss the pros and cons of adding signage on Park District property at the sailing beach and at Langdon in order to explain the rights of the public to walk along the beach below the official high water mark. And the committee asked staff to discuss this concept with Tressler, with our legal representation, to determine whether or not that was feasible. And I mean, certainly putting a sign up, but in terms of where and who and how, and would we just be creating bigger problems for ourselves or solving a problem for residents? Just as an update, the fence had been removed before our meeting took place.
It was a fence on private property.
It was a fence that was on private property. The beach had eroded, and quite honestly, I'm not even sure that it's private property. It was erected by an individual resident.
Yeah.
I don't know where the official high water mark is, so I can't say whether it was on private property or public property. But
It hadn't been adjusted to the new high water mark is what had happened.
right.
Yeah.
And was she ever responded to?
We brought that up in the meeting, on Monday and last week, and she will be responded to
Right.
if she has not
Got
in
it.
the last week. Yeah. Staff is going to respond.
Loaded email. I felt for whoever had to respond to that. It's just hard to know all that.
Well, it's complicated.
It's very
Yeah,
complicated.
there's a lot of
There's
complicated
four
topics
different
there.
government bodies that have jurisdiction over the water and the
Right.
beach, so it's
Right.
it's complicated.
Yeah.
Fair, like, how do you
Well, we
answer
don't have all the
that?
answers right now, but we're going to
Right.
look into some of them, and so I think it will be easier to respond at this point than.
And I think having the sections of fence removed go a long way to answering most of her email, and this is not the first time this has happened, and that homeowner has always been more than cooperative in removing the fences.
Good.
In addition to that, our major topic of discussion was the lakefront update from Superintendent Ulrich. They're making good progress on the construction on the beach and the beach house and parking lot. 4 of the 5 buildings have been poured. They're concrete buildings, and now have temporary roofs on them. The 5th building is formed up by my observations today, and probably will be poured later this week, weather permitting. The parking lot work will have to wait for warmer temperatures. The ground is frozen, and they can't finish the curbing, and certainly have no access to asphalt during the cold weather because the asphalt plant's literally closed down. Construction on the buildings will continue as long as the temperatures remain approximately where they are and where they have been, and otherwise they're still on time and on budget, which is, keep your fingers crossed. In addition, sailing contracts have been updated and will be mailed and emailed on January 24th. If you're a sailor and you're interested in having a boat on the sailing beach, and picnic reservations went live on the website on January 2nd. If you're interested in reserving a picnic site for the summer, that and a permit for St. Francis Parish to hold services on July 14th, and that was all she wrote.
Thank you. Any questions for the Lakefront Committee? Thank you very much. We'll move on to Facilities Operations Committee.
The Facilities Committee met tonight. We had a quick meeting. Again, not a lot to report. At the ice rink, it's business as usual. Most of the numbers for programs were up in December, and we had 206 participants at Skate with Santa. And the ice show solo tryouts are this Saturday. At the pool, it's even quieter. They're just hiring, and it's going well. And then at paddle, it's pretty much the halfway point in the season for the competitive teams and for programs. And then the rental for the paddle hut is going well. Not just paddle events. There are rentals for other events, baby showers, graduations. And some Saturdays have back-to-back rentals, so that's great. At tennis, this Saturday, January 19th, I think that's Saturday,
Yeah.
is the in-person registration for basic level classes. There's 337 lottery numbers in hand out there for this Saturday. And then on January 31st, a Thursday evening, Jason is having a parents meeting for junior competitive tennis. He's just going to start guiding parents and promoting that younger, but just starting to get into competitive tennis and how to put together a competitive schedule for your child with tournaments and such, which is a new thing he's doing for us. And then he's also attending the Tennis Owners and Managers Conference on January 22nd through 24th. And his biggest thing that he's excited to learn about there is the boom of pickleball. So that's it.
Pickleball coming to a court near you, maybe?
Yeah, probably.
Any questions for the Facilities Committee? Thank you very much. We'll move along to Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec, this is the first time we've met since October. Relatively short meeting. Jerry gave us an update on Langdon and Kay. Langdon, the playground equipment has been installed. Wood chips have been installed. It is up and running as a playground. We've gotten some good comments from neighbors. There will be a period, spring, once we achieve a period of time, a week or more of 50-degree weather, so it's not going to happen too fast. It could be no sooner than April or beyond, where the park playground, not the park itself, but the park playground would be shut down while the rubberized surface will be, the wood chips are pulled out and the rubberized wood surface will be put down, has to cure, and as soon as possible, the park playground will be reopened. K, I think we're going to get an update in the spring, more of our path forward, so there really isn't an update at this point on K Nature Center. Otherwise, summer camps registration are underway. Our youth theater has held auditions for, Frog and Toad, that's right, and Shrek. And, you know, the CRC is humming with activity.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Parks and Rec? Thank you very much. We'll move along to Golf Operations Committee.
Okay, golf operations met this past Saturday morning. As you can imagine, it was a quiet day at the golf course. The primary part of our discussion was about the restaurant. And the financials, we received the financials from the restaurant or the new caterers. They reported substantially more revenue than the previous operator did, but the revenues fell a little bit short of the threshold that would be necessary in order to reach for the Park District to share in the profits of that restaurant. We all agree that it continues to be a work in progress and that they're doing a very good job on events such as baby showers, as we discussed, and weddings and other things of that ilk. But they need to do a little bit better job on the 19th hole type of tavern environment for golfers after playing golf. In addition to that, in our maintenance report from Nick, he talked about some of the maintenance that they do on equipment and on the course, and we spent a little bit of time talking about some of the tree removal that's going to be done over the course of the winter months. None of the trees will be removed that are strategic, but some of the trees that will be removed are dead and an eyesore on the golf course. And then last but not least, we talked a little bit about cross-country skiing out there. We did get some snow shortly after the meeting, but not sufficient enough in order to ski. Generally, we need something in the neighborhood of like 5 to 6 inches of snow in order to ski on the course, but it's all ready to go if we do get a reasonable amount of snow. The greens are roped off and whatnot. And also, our staff is going to a similar conference in January. This one is the PGA Professionals Conference, where they will come back with more ideas and more vendors vendors along the lines of time sheet, golf tee. That's where we got Golf Now last year and other things to make the golf course more effective. So, and that was it.
Thank you. Any questions for the Golf Committee?
Just a couple of comments, and one was that the restaurant is now serving a Sunday brunch if people are interested. And the other one was that I know that some residents nearby went snowshoeing, and I think some of them may have skied as well, but as you said, it's not enough snow to bring out the groomer and groom a trail. And it certainly didn't last very long. That's it.
John, I had one question. You mentioned the Golf Now. How has that been performing, or how did we break with that this year?
I'd say that overall it was a very positive development. We need to fill more and more tee times, and this is by far the most efficient way to fill them. And I think that we've got a lot more data about who who our players are, which I think is very helpful. So overall, the move forward with technology and embracing it instead of being concerned about it, I think has been overall a pretty good decision.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for golf? Thank you very much. We'll move along to financial planning and policy. Mr. Anderson, Commissioner Anderson is not here tonight, so I'm not sure who's filling.
He didn't ask me.
Oh, no report. Sorry, no report.
no
Committee's not.
meeting.
Sorry, I didn't read the full thing. He had sent an email saying that someone would report, so that's why I was confused. So that does it for our committee reports. Next up, unfinished business, stormwater update. Mr. Wilson.
So I'll start with an update, and then I do have some questions that I want to ask to get a little more clarification from the board. Subsequent to the last meeting and prior to this meeting, I attended one meeting where Andy Tanucci from Woodhouse Tanucci presented some very high-level conceptual, larger recreation center build-outs at the Hibbard Park location, and gave those options over to the engineers from Burke Engineering to look at for feasibility for the stormwater in and around existing facility as well as possible future facility, so we have so we maximize as much flexibility for the community for future recreational needs. And we're waiting to hear back from Burke, and then once all that is together, that's going to be very helpful information for this committee to discuss and consider Hibbard Park as a location. Other than that, unless there's any questions on that specifically from the committee, I have questions from the board. I have questions to the board about the discussion at last meeting and how to gather public input related to all three locations.
Okay.
All right, so at the last meeting, a lot of discussion about how we best go about it, and I think the one thing I came out of here clearly understanding is that the board truly wants to seek as much public input as possible. The details on how to go about it were a bit murky. There were some comments about doing it within the parks, not within the parks, winter weather. I think we kind of got away from that idea in the end. But there were comments about the board having interactive back and forth with the public, but then there were comments about let's do it like we do the regular playground inputs, and those are meetings facilitated and held by staff and not held by the board. And I need to best understand how it's going to work so I can best put together the schedule, put together the public notifications, and more importantly, notice the meetings properly to stay in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Is it a full board meeting? Is it a committee meeting? Is it staff who's going to be conducting the meeting? These are all the details that I need more clarification from, and there were a lot of opinions last meeting, and I just want to try and get us all to the same final concluding point before I put things in action.
I can start, or if anybody else wants to start. I guess my thinking is I would love to have a section of our board meetings where people can come and give us input. I don't see that as a give and take. I think there should be a separate meeting that staff does where there's a give and take with the community to hear how they feel about it and what they would like to see in these parks after all is said and done. So that's kind of what my thinking was. I'd like to have it where we can hear it as well, but also that you're having the give and take meetings.
Okay.
And would Park District, would the commissioners be able to attend those meetings with the public?
Attend, observe, but to have discussions about it together, that's where we could then run into an Open Meeting Act violation depending on the number of commissioners in attendance. It's once again, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that the lakefront, when we were, after we had hired the architect, they held a series of public programming meetings where the public was invited and a great deal of people came, and many commissioners attended, and we listened. And so the facilitator was somebody knowledgeable about what could or couldn't be done in design and engage the public in terms of, well, how do you know, there were a lot of questions and there was a lot of give and take. I thought those were successful, and so I envisioned something similar.
Okay.
I guess my understanding was, from our last committee of the whole meeting, was that we would have it on the agenda at the board, the monthly board meetings, and we were going to focus on, and I think it's in the minutes, we were going to focus on a couple of different, or one park over a couple of different months. And I like that because we're all here, it's televised, people know it's a great way to reach us. But yes, I think in addition, if there's a back and forth, that's fine. But I think it also allows people to bring up some interesting points and concepts
Great.
in a manner that we'll all.
So it sounds like everyone's comfortable with the additional direct input, conversational style meetings being facilitated by staff.
By staff, yes.
Okay, perfect. That's the clarification I needed. Thank you.
But I think we should start the board meeting input
Absolutely.
immediately.
Absolutely. Starting next month and take them in
If
order.
anyone
of
out
things.
there wants to.
Right, absolutely.
Tonight.
And that'll all be a part of my public communications about these meetings, is make sure people know that there are
And which
multiple
park.
options on each park, and I'll put together a schedule and put it all out there, so everyone knows that, hey, this night is the one I can come to the
Right.
meeting at the board level and give them input, or this is the one where I can go and discuss and
I
hear.
don't
And
think it should be more than one at the board. Like, I think we talked, maybe 2 for each location at the
Okay.
board level.
we can do that.
Even if it rolls, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
And one of the things as we were discussing this last time that I'm remembering now, is that possibly having staff give the update, if there is one, on that specific park that we're discussing that night before we have public comment, just so people can kind of hear kind of what's going on and then give their comment, as opposed to, since we're not going to have the back and forth.
Right. And not
For sure.
have a
Provide
lot
a
to
summary.
say, and it might be answered.
It might be, exactly.
Right.
Yep. So if we could kind of structure the agenda that way.
Ideally, the public input meeting run by staff would be prior to it being on the agenda at a board meeting?
No, I'm
Specific-
just saying if it's on our agenda, normally the recognition of visitors is at the beginning of the meeting, and then we would get like a staff update on other
Okay, so
things
just
later.
a general staff update on stormwater?
Before we would have the recognition of visitors, so that they could hear,
Everyone's heard everything.
as opposed to them, people coming up and asking questions or stating something that Steve's about to say 10 minutes later, or,
Got it.
that kind of a thing. So it's
So-
just more of a matter of rearranging the agenda a little.
So what I have here is a total of 9 meetings then. So 2 per location here, that's 6, plus the 3 input sessions is 9 meetings across all locations.
But only 3 additional meetings. Correct?
Correct. So what Shelley just asked for was that we have 2 times that each location is on one of these agendas.
Regular scheduled
board
monthly
meetings.
board meeting.
So that's 3 locations, 2 meetings, 6 total.
Okay.
And then the 3 input sessions about each specific park that staff's going to
three additional
facilitate, that equals 9 total.
But we don't have to be at those meetings.
I will say that the lakefront programming meetings were actually facilitated by the design professional, of which staff, played a major role in those presentations. I would like to see some design professional participation in these community meetings, if only to, keep it real.
Well, maybe if not a design professional, someone from the village, or
I was going to say, are we talking about the engineers hired by the village? Because we don't have a designer necessarily for anything other than Woodhouse Tanucci working on the Hibbert Park location in conjunction with us and the engineers.
I understood that Gawald Hamilton was going to help us be our engineer.
I wouldn't call them park designers by any means. They're engineers. They're here to help us make sure that any designs by the village aren't detrimental to the public property. They're not necessarily park planners or anything like that. So I guess if that's what people want, we can have them there. They'd be
Well,
happy to be a part of it. But
Let me play a little what if. Somebody's going to come in and they will say, what about green technology? What is the state of stormwater with regard to green technology? I've heard some things about what they're doing in Philadelphia with regard to stormwater, using parklands as stormwater sponges instead of tanks. Can somebody help me understand that? Are we considering those kinds of things? So I do expect questions that are going to go beyond necessarily what the village has considered, but our residents will be interested in asking. We know that we're going to get green questions, that's for sure. So what are the options for green? Does it make sense? And I think somebody who can speak with considerable expertise on that would be, reputable.
are you
source.
suggesting green infrastructure outside of the tank itself, just within the park itself, stuff that we would facilitate the installation and implementation of?
It's not my question. I'm saying that the public will ask the question. So, I think that we will do ourselves a favor if we were anticipating that there will be questions beyond have we considered this, beyond what the village has proposed. So that's where I think that would be good to have some
Brian,
expertise there.
would it be acceptable to have the village engineer or there to be able to answer those questions?
I suppose so,
Okay.
sure.
Like, is that Bridget? Or is
I would
the-
think that it would be the people from Burke Engineering.
Yeah.
That would be better.
I mean, I would echo what Brian said, having more professionals that can answer questions and engage the public in this discussion, similar to the way that we've done it in the other situations we're talking about, whether it's the lakefront or parks. I think that makes a ton of sense. And just looking at the minutes here, the Burke specifically actually talks about, he went on to say that there are ways to make benefits to the environment by incorporating green infrastructure. So they talk about these things, but we don't really know what that means, or we don't know what it means, we don't know what it costs. And I think that's the kind of community input that people, I think, are trying to give.
So that's exactly what I was going to try and clarify, because I thought the point of these input sessions were to what is the park going to function like once the project is complete, not the engineering of the stormwater traps underneath. So that I agree that we're probably going to get those questions. It's probably helpful to have the village engineers here to handle those questions, because people will have them and they're curious. But the type of input we're trying to get, I want to make sure, is about the parks themselves, how they function today, how they could function in the end. I thought that was the input we were trying to receive.
That was my thinking.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from too. But I guess where I'm just trying to use this green concept as an example. Let's just say, for example, at the community playfields, that gets selected as a site. And then it's the Park District's viewpoint that we're going to utilize this opportunity to put in another turf field. Okay? Is that green? Is it not green? If they change the plan so that there's more green infrastructure and it doesn't allow us to build a turf field on top of it, those are the types of what-if scenarios that I can imagine coming out of this. That sort of falls into our responsibility here, which is what are we going to do with the land after it's done.
Yep. Okay.
And I'm not attempting to limit the scope of the discussions. I believe that's for the residents to come to us and express their concerns. I don't wish to, say, we're only going to talk about park improvements with regard to stormwater. If they have other concerns about this project, let them speak. That's all.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the stormwater update? Hearing none, we'll move forward with new business. We have an approval of an ordinance.
I'm going to move to approve ordinance 2019-0-1, an ordinance making a combined annual budget and appropriation of funds for the Wilmette Park District for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019 and ending December 31st, 2019.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Sounds like, oh gosh, we're not going to have a budget?
Everybody's falling asleep here, first meeting of the year.
Oh, my goodness. Just so everybody knows, this is something that we do every year to approve our budget to fund everything that we do for this year. So we've had many meetings about this and have had opportunities for the public to comment, and this is the point where we actually approve the budget. So any other questions or comments from commissioners?
No.
Hearing none, may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Abbott.
Yes.
Commissioner Foster.
Yes.
Commissioner Pelletin.
Yes?
Commissioner Olvani.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelley.
Yes.
Commissioner Wolf.
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
Thank you very much. Next up on our agenda is adjournment to closed session. This is on here because we had one last month to discuss some issues. I don't know if any commissioners had any further information that they want to discuss. If not, we will not go into closed session. Does anyone feel the need?
I have no need.
All right. Hearing no need, we will take that off or move forward with our agenda, and we will adjourn. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.